Okay. Is it working now?
I don't know.
That's yeah, so I think it's private.
All right, so are we okay? Okay, sorry for the delay, everybody. They're having some technical difficulties here. This is OLC 40, class number 2. We are working on unit 1, and I am Jillian Percy, your teacher. This just says the same stuff. Okay, so where we left off yesterday, we just got to the spot about parts of speech, which I'm sure you've heard before, but we're just going to review, because if I'm making comments about things when I'm talking to you, like, oh, it needs more adjectives or whatever, I want to make sure we have the same vocabulary and we all know what we're talking about. So there's basically 9 main parts of speech. Each part has a job to do, and many words can do more than one job depending on where and how it is used in the sentence. We did talk a little bit about parts of speech yesterday. So, for example, noun, the name of a person, place, thing, or idea. There's 2 main kinds of nouns: common noun, which does not have a capital, and a proper noun, which has a capital because it's somebody's actual name. So here, girl is a common, Maria's a name. Town is common, Pickle Lake is an actual name. Pronoun, we talked about these yesterday as well. These are words that can take the place of a noun. For example, I, he, she, is, her, our, we, they, it. Verb, a word that expresses action of some kind or being. For example, analyze, speak, laugh, is, are, were. There are verb participles, which is, it's modified a little bit. Analyzing, analyzed, speaking, spoken. So just those little endings that change the verb tense are called a participle. Sorry. Adjective, a word that describes a noun. For example, a formal report or a colorful brochure. Adverbs, which sounds a lot the same, but has the little mini word verb in there to tell you it's going to describe a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. So carefully communicated, accurately summarizes. Let me go up a little bit. Preposition, a word showing how a noun or a pronoun is related to another word in a sentence. It can also be like a location word. So on, over, under, beside, at, between, near. Conjunction, a word that joins 2 or more words or groups of words. So like a phrase or a sentence. Some examples are and, but, or, however, then, so, also, because. Okay, so we discussed nouns, pronouns, and verbs a lot yesterday. I kind of wanted to dial in and talk a little bit about adjectives today. Adjectives describe how a noun looks, sounds, smells, tastes, or feels. They often come right before the noun. Other times they'll come right after a verb of being, such as is, am, are, was, were, will be, has been, and had been. So, for example, if you look at the big black dog went running. All right, so dog is our noun, right? So big and black are describing it. Big and black. Those are adjectives, and they're describing the dog. Let me use a different color for the next one here. An old brick building was in ruins. All right, so building is our noun. And right before it, you can see we've got old and brick. And they are modifying or describing the building. I saw a long green boat in the distance. So nouns can come in other places of the sentence besides just the beginning. So here, the noun boat has descriptors of long and green. And you can see again, it's right in front. Okay, he was an old, tired man. So here's my noun, man. And here are my adjectives, old and tired, and they are right before man. Now, here's the other kind where it's at the end of a phrase. The day was breezy and cool. So these guys are describing the day. Okay, that's the whole point of the sentence. This is what happens when you have those verbs of being. Okay. Love can be wonderful or terrible. So wonderful and terrible are adjectives describing the word love. All right. So adverbs also describe stuff. Usually a verb, but sometimes an adverb. They tell you how, when, where, or why someone or something's performed an action. Sometimes it comes right after the verb. That's really common. Other time it may be moved to the beginning of a sentence and is often set off with a comma. So the boy raced quickly down the street. I'm going to use a different color just to kind of make it clear. Here's our verb. He's racing. And how is he racing? It's racing quickly, right? It's right after to show that it's describing that. The train arrives tomorrow. Arrives is our verb. Tomorrow is our adjective. And you can see again, it's right next to it, right behind it here. The dog ate hungrily. So our action is ate, and hungrily is our adverb. Quickly, the man pulled the parachute cord. Okay, here's where they've moved it to the front. Quickly is describing how he pulls it. Okay, sometimes we do this for emphasis, but here's our verb. It's still describing the verb. It's describing how he pulled things. Yesterday, the store was closed. Well, here's our verb. Or I guess both of them really, was closed. Yesterday is describing when it was closed, right? You could say this store was closed yesterday. That'd be fine. It's just a different way of writing the sentence. This is often called like a complex sentence. Finally, the racers were at the finish line. So there's our verb. But over here is our adverb describing when it was happening. They were finally there. Desperately, he jumped onto the train. So jumped is our verb. And desperately is our adverb. Okay. You can see they often try and keep things close if it's right after. Beforehand, there may be any number of words. But again, you'll see it usually like right at the beginning, then if it happens that way. Okay. There are also interjections, a word used to express strong feeling or to get attention. It's really common all by itself, or maybe at the beginning, like, hey, I need help, or wow, that's beautiful. Okay. It's generally got an exclamation point after it because it's trying to show that somebody's shouting or they're really feeling strongly about this. All right, there's some stuff here. All right, related terms. Antecedent, the word or group of words to which a pronoun refers. Okay, so if I had Larry was late for work, he often missed the bus. Okay, he is referring to Larry. Larry's called the antecedent. Phrase, a group of words that serves as a single part of speech and does not contain both a subject and a noun. So basically like a sentence fragment, but sometimes in a actual sentence, you'll have a small phrase kind of set off. The other word, yeah. So clause, a group of words that contains both a subject and a verb. Clauses are the building blocks of sentences. There are two types. A main clause is a group of words that make sense as a sentence on its own. Subordinate clause, a group of words that contains a subject and a verb, but it does not make sense on its own, and it must be linked to the main clause. So for example, Your order will arrive on Monday. That's a main clause. It could sit there all by itself and it would make perfect sense. If you place it today. Now, if you place it today, it's got a subject, it's got a verb, but that if means it doesn't make a lot of sense unless it's connected to the main clause. So a subordinate clause to be a full sentence will always have a main clause with it. Okay, other terms of interest are gerund, infinitive, and a modifier. Gerund is the ing form of a verb, for example, analyzing, the ing at the end, while an infinitive is the form of a verb that is preceded by to. So to analyze, to run, to go. A modifier refers to a word or a phrase that gets more information about a subject, verb, or object in a clause or a sentence. Adjectives and adverbs are called modifiers. I like the word describes better, but modifier is also correct. I just think it doesn't always explain it very well. You will be expected to write good sentences in this course, and so an understanding of the various parts of speech and related terms will be essential. You'll be focusing your attention mainly on nouns, pronouns, verbs, and modifiers. Effective writing communication depends on it. All right, we're going to talk briefly about punctuation. The above types of punctuation are used in writings of all sorts to ensure that readers are able to fully and more easily understand the content presented. What exactly is it that the writer is trying to convey? Punctuation is important in this regard. On the next page, you will find a taste of the most used types of punctuation other than the period. All right, period is sometimes called a full stop, just shows you the sentence is over. A question mark shows you that they're asking a question. An exclamation point shows you that they're feeling strong excitement. Comma has multiple uses. So does a semicolon is often setting off clauses. I'm going to go to the next page and just kind of see. I'll just mention what these are, and then we'll look at the definitions, okay? Semicolon, ellipsis points, dash, a hyphen or a slash, colon, which is like the two dots as compared to the semicolon, apostrophe, which is one little mark up top, quotation marks, which is a set of two. I was always taught it was like 66 at the beginning and like a 99 at the end. With computers, it's often more just like two little slashes. Okay. The most common form of punctuation, other than the period at the end of a sentence, is the comma. The purpose of the comma is to allow a reader to pause briefly while reading. Leaving commas out of sentences can confuse readers, and using them incorrectly or too often will make writing unclear. They also are used when you're listing like a series of items, and there's some special usages in terms of dates, which we'll talk about later. Examples. A poor sentence. Mary went to the northern store and bought beef stew, pork chops, bread, and ketchup. A good sentence. Mary went to the northern store and bought beef stew, pork chops, bread, and ketchup, sorry. That little comma is just telling you that these are separate items, basically. The semicolon is used in writing to separate important sentence elements. It can be used between two main clauses in a compound sentence when they are not connected by a conjunction. For example, Margaret could accept some of Gary's actions, semicolon. It was his attitude she could not accept. So this could have been joined with a conjunction. And I find that these days we use conjunctions a lot more. In the past, I feel like semicolons were used a lot more. Again, they're both main clauses. It's just that they're connected, okay? It can also be used to separate items in a series when the items already contain other punctuation, and it might be confusing to use the comma. So for example, the hockey team traveled to Sault Ste. Marie, comma, Ontario, and there's your semicolon. So it's trying to show you, here's the one place, Sault Ste. Marie, which is in Ontario, Winnipeg, which is in Manitoba, and then here's your next section, Saskatoon, which is in Saskatchewan, next semicolon, and Lethbridge, Alberta, for tournaments this past winter. If they had put just commas there, it wouldn't make any sense because there already kind of was a comma, and it would sound like as if Sault Ste. Marie was one place and Ontario was another place, which is not the case, right? They're trying to show you that one's a city, one's a province. The apostrophe is generally used to show possession or to show that letters are missing in contractions. They are also used to pluralize numbers, letters, and abbreviations. For example, Sam's four-wheeler, Kim's shoes, summer of 29, which would be, if it was written out fully, be 1921. Sorry, 2021, not 29. Your, which if written out fully would say you are. So it has two jobs. It can show that something is owned, or it can show that something is missing. Quotation marks simply show that a direct quotation or words from somebody, or to enclose the names of short works, like the title, of brochures, pamphlets, and magazine articles. So for example, what a beautiful day. So Tammy remarked, she's talking there. John asked, are you going with us to the cabin? And again, in the quotation marks is where they're talking. But it is also used for a title. The brochure is entitled Explore Sunset County. And again, it's just to kind of set it off and make it clear that it's not part of the regular sentence. Okay. Yesterday we talked about assignment 1, which was discussing the grandfather teachings. Hopefully you've worked on that a little bit. If not, you need to kind of work on that tonight. Assignment 2, growing up in my community, is worth 20 marks. Another blank English course. You get to fill in the blank with whatever word you want there. Perhaps you've filled in the blank with a choice expletive, which is a fancy phrase for, well, a not so nice word, like a swear word. If so, this course is for you. If you have filled in the blank with an adjective like awesome or challenging, then this course is for you as well. This course will help anyone who wants or needs it to assess his or her literacy goals and then achieve them. I don't have any literacy goals. If that was your thought just now, you are not alone. What is a literacy goal anyways? Clearly, if you're reading this, it means you can read. So what's the point? Well, expressing yourself through writing is also useful and important. This course has been designed not only to meet the requirements of the Ontario curriculum, but also, and more importantly, to help you get the most out of everything you are interested in by improving upon your communication skills. It will help you not only with your schoolwork, but also in the real world. So for example, maybe one of your literacy goals is, well, I want to get really good at writing so I can work on resumes and cover letters to be able to get a good job. Or maybe you already have a job and you're having to send a lot of letters out or create posters, and that's one of your literacy goals. Any goal is acceptable, right? That's just fine. It's your goal. You get to decide. For this assignment, you are to write approximately 2/3 to 1 page about your family and community, where you are, where you're from, growing up, your experience in school, and any other details you would like to share. The idea here is to get you to practice writing in sentences in a paragraph format. The more writing you do, the better you're going to be at expressing yourself in a variety of ways, as is required in this course, especially through some journal entries, informational paragraphs, news reports, and opinion pieces. Maybe you've heard the phrase, practice makes perfect. You will need to submit both a rough copy and a final copy for full marks. Again, be very careful with spelling, grammar, and punctuation in your final copy. Keep in mind also that the capital letters need to be used correctly. So for example, you can't use capital letters anywhere you like. They only really show up in the front of a word that is a name or a title or the word I or the beginning of a sentence, okay? Keep in mind, your rough copy has to be handwritten. Your final copy can be done on the computer. Keep in mind, this is as much as you feel like telling me about yourself. Don't feel like you've got to tell me every deep, dark secret. It really doesn't matter. I'm just trying to give you practice on a topic that you're familiar with, which is your life. It also conveniently helps me know a little bit more about you. Right now, all I have is your names, so I don't really have a chance to get to know you like I would if we were all in a classroom together. So this is kind of your chance to introduce yourself to me. So only include what you feel comfortable sharing. Okay. So I put together a little brainstorming item here. So if I was writing an essay all about me, here are some things I could write about. You don't necessarily need to include all of these. It was just meant to kind of give you an idea of possibilities. I could write about my family, about major events, about talents, interests, school, community. Okay. Any one of those is absolutely acceptable. Okay. So I'm going to start with community just to get me going. Okay. Again, just to kind of give you an example. Okay. So my community is Windsor. My gosh, that's huge. Hang on a second. Let me make it smaller. Okay. My community is Windsor. Calling it a blue collar town. I don't know if they use that phrase anymore. What it used to mean was that a lot of people in town have jobs in trade rather than in offices. At least 200,000 people. It's on the river next to Detroit. Okay. Family. Okay. Family. I'm going to make this smaller before I even start here. Family, I have 2 brothers, no sisters. Mom and dad are older, but still alive, and no living grandparents. A few cousins. Okay. Now, that's just talking generally. Maybe there's a special family member that I really want to talk about in this essay. Like maybe I'm especially close to my brother, or my dad means everything to me, or, grandma raised me and so I want to talk about her. Again, it's your essay. As long as it connects back to you, that's fine. Whatever you want to talk about there. School. Okay. Again, anything about school that you want to tell me that will help me understand you better, that is awesome. So school, I loved school. I know it's not necessarily popular, but I did. A lot of my family, are teachers. I loved art and writing. Those were actually my majors in university. Didn't know what to do with myself and ended up getting teacher's degree. Okay. Interests. All right. Interests would be art, photography, sewing, family, writing. Okay. I'm not going to fill every single thing out here. I'm just trying to give you kind of an idea of what you can do. And you can see I'm not writing whole sentences here. I'm just trying to give myself some words and some kind of a starting spot. It's kind of like before I'm even doing my rough copy, I'm giving myself a chance to kind of think about what I want to do. They call this brainstorming. Okay. So let me just kind of like, let me grab something. Remember I tried to do this before. Okay. Maybe I'll grab this and see if it'll let me do it. Copy. Okay, not let me this time. Sorry. Program's a little bit fussy. Okay. So here are my rough notes. And of course, I can add to them. I'm not limited to what I wrote originally. It's just like a starting spot. That's all it is. All right. So I am going to, here's my stuff. Okay. So I grew up in Windsor. Beautiful city by the river, right next to Detroit. It has at least 200,000 people. It used to be known as a car town with lots of jobs in trades. I loved growing up here, but later longed to travel somewhere new. Okay. So right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 sentences in there. Maybe I add another sentence, but you can see I did use what I had, but I also tried to make it sound more interesting, more beautiful, I guess, in a sense, and just kind of explain things. So this is just a starting spot. Obviously, if I've got to fill in 2/3 to a page, I am not done. I would need to now write another part. Paragraphing real quickly. When I was young, what we were taught to do to paragraph was tab it in so it starts with a little bit of an indent. These days, what I see more happen often is they leave a space. So I loved, oh wait, I lost it here. I loved school. I am fine with either. The indent is really, really helpful, especially if you're doing the handwritten. Sometimes that extra space is more helpful when you're doing digital. The only thing to be careful is occasionally it doesn't survive formatting. So just make sure it really is there. So every paragraph is connected to one topic. When you switch topics, you create a new paragraph, and you show me it's a new paragraph by an indent or by a space. Either one is fine. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to do assignment 2. I think I've made it really clear. We already talked, I believe, about the difference between a rough copy and a good copy yesterday. I will check my notes to make sure. If we didn't, I will cover that tomorrow. You can always just do your rough copy tonight. That'd be fine. All right. Assignment 3, I think, is kind of fun. It appeals to me. So hopefully you guys find it fun. I think it's really easy anyways. It's about your communication skills. It says you are to complete the communication skills survey below. Indicate how important you feel each skill is to you at the moment by choosing and circling the appropriate number on the right. Okay. So you are the one that gets to decide how important the skill is. I have nothing to do with it. There's no wrong answers. Entirely whatever you choose is the right answer. So for example, following instructions. Well, I'm a teacher, so I kind of consider that pretty important, but you may not, and that's okay. So I'm going to say, yeah, level 4. Listening skills, level 5. Conversational skills. All right. I don't want you to copy all mine, so I'm not going to go through. You get to decide. And again, it's not how skilled you are at it, it's how important you think it is. It's totally fine if you don't think those things are important. Okay. Communicating with the public, conflict resolution, negotiation, interview, training skills. Then we have various written communication skills, diversity, multicultural communication skills. Okay. And let me see here. Next page. Oops. Okay. And electronic communications, use of email, use of Facebook, cell phone, including your texting. Okay. That's a really simple assignment. All you got to do is circle that and send it to me. Okay. That's a quick, easy 10 marks. Assignment 4 is talking about your temperament as well, just in a different way. So the word temperament means like your character or your personality. While reading the following lists of attributes or personal qualities, think carefully about which ones are more often true of you. Highlight or circle or check, whatever works for you, the descriptions in each category that describe you most often. Finally, for each category, try and identify what kind of person you are. So this is loosely based on a test called the Myers-Briggs temperament test. It's used all over the world, and it's really commonly used in the field of careers to help people see what careers might suit them best. So first question says, where is your energy naturally directed? Extroverts' energy is directed primarily outward towards people and things outside of themselves. Introverts' energy is primarily directed inward towards their own thoughts, perceptions, and reactions. Therefore, extroverts tend to be more naturally active, expressive, social, and interested in many things, whereas introverts tend to be more reserved, private, cautious, and interested in fewer interactions, but with a greater depth and focus. Okay, then they give you a list of the 2 types. Extroverts have high energy, talk more than they listen, think out loud, act and then think, like to be around people a lot, prefer a public role, can sometimes be easily distracted, prefer to do lots of things at once, are outgoing and enthusiastic. So if you're the kind of person that is like the life of the party, or you're the comedian that always has your friends laughing, if when you're feeling lower down, you're like, oh, I got to go find some people and hang out, good chance that you're an extrovert. Introverts often have quiet energy. They listen more than they talk. They think quietly inside their heads. Usually they think, then they act. They feel very comfortable being alone. They prefer to work behind the scenes, have good powers of concentration, prefer to focus on one thing at a time, are self-contained and reserved. So these people still are friendly, have friends, like to do stuff. But you know what? If they're feeling low and down, they might first want to like go grab some time and think about stuff, or go for a quiet walk in the woods all by themselves. And once they have their energy level kind of up, then they might want to go and see people. These are also the people that might run out of energy kind of quickly if they're in a social environment for a long time. So if that's you, then you're an introvert. So you pick either one. Number 2, what kind of information do you naturally notice or remember? Hang on here. Sensors notice the facts, details, and realities of the world around them, whereas intuitives are more interested in connections and relationships between facts, as well as the meaning or possibilities of the information. Sensors tend to be practical and literal people who trust past experience, and they often have good common sense. Intuitives tend to be imaginative, theoretical people who trust their hunches and pride themselves on their creativity. So, sensors, they often focus on details and specifics. They're the kind of person that if if somebody says, "Oh, what was your friend wearing?" They're like, "Oh, they were wearing their red T-shirt with the collar and the black stripe." They admire practical solutions. They notice details and remember facts. They are pragmatic. They live in the here and now. They trust actual lived experience. They like to use their established skills. They like step-by-step instructions, and they often work at a steady pace. Intuitives are often focused on the big picture and all the possibilities. They admire creative ideas. They notice things that are new or different. They're often very inventive and they see what could be. They think about the future and what things are happening now, how that could affect the future. They trust their gut instincts. If something feels wrong, they'll think it's wrong, even if they can't give you an exact reason. Whereas a sensor might be like, yeah, no, I could tell that person was bad because I could tell they were lying because of this, this, and this, right? Whereas intuitives might be just like, oh, I just had a bad feeling about that person. They prefer to learn new skills. They like to figure things out for themselves, and they often work in big bursts of energy. So you decide, are you a sensor or are you intuitive? I tend towards intuitive myself. I admire sensors, but I'm definitely not a detail person. How do you decide or come to conclusions? Thinkers make decisions based primarily on objective and impersonal criteria. What makes the most sense and what is logical. So think Mr. Spock or Sheldon, right? They're looking at just the facts. Feelers make decisions based primarily on their personal values and how they feel about their choices, right? So think Leonard or think Captain Kirk. They just feel what's right and they go with what they're feeling. So thinkers tend to be cool, analytical, and they're very convinced by logical reasoning, right? They're not going to care if you're like, well, I'm very upset about this. They want the reasons why they should change what they're doing. Feelers tend to be sensitive, empathetic, and are compelled by existing circumstances and a constant search for harmony. They want people to be at peace. They want to feel calm themselves. That's a high value for them. Thinkers often make decisions objectively. They appear cool and reserved. They are most convinced by rational arguments. They are honest and direct. They value honesty and fairness. They take very few things personally. They are good at seeing flaws. They are motivated by achievement. They love to argue or debate issues for fun. So lawyers, scientists, that kind of thing. Feelers often decide based on their values and feelings. They will appear warm and friendly. They are most convinced by how they feel or also by other people's feelings. They are diplomatic and tactful. They value harmony and compassion. They take many things personally. They are quick to compliment others. They are motivated by appreciation, like people saying, oh, I really value you. They try to avoid arguments and conflicts. Those things don't feel good, and so they don't enjoy them. So which do you think you are, a thinker or a feeler? I would say I'm probably a feeler. So thinking doesn't mean thinking isn't about whether you're good at school or not good at school. It's how you decide to do things. Some people really look at their feelings. Some people really sit down and like make lists and look at all the facts. So it isn't about how smart or not smart you are. It's what you use to make your decisions. Okay. What kind of environment makes you the most comfortable? Okay. Judges prefer a structured, ordered, and fairly predictable environment where they can make decisions and have things settled. Perceivers prefer to experience as much of the world as possible, so they like to keep their options open, and they are most comfortable adapting. Perceivers are very flexible, right? So judges tend to be organized and very productive, while perceivers tend to be flexible, curious, and non-conforming. By the way, I would say perceivers can be very productive as well, but they will need time to kind of look at everything and consider all their options before they move forward. Judges often like to have things settled. They take their responsibilities very serious. They pay attention to time and are usually very prompt. They prefer to finish projects right away. They are work first, play later kind of people. They seek closure. They want a decision and then to be able to just move forward from that decision. They see the need for most rules. They like to make and stick with plans. Perceivers often like to keep their options open. They are often more playful and casual. They may be less aware of time and they may run a little bit late. They love to start projects. They don't always like to finish them. That part kind of can be more boring for them. They like to play first and then do the work later. They may have difficulty making some decisions. And often the reason is because they can see all the possibilities. They're looking at all the different consequences. And so that it can be hard to decide between all the different possibilities. They will also question the need for many rules. Again, going back to they can see the effect rules may have on different people, and they are the type to question things. Judges also find comfort in schedules, whereas perceivers like to keep their plans flexible and they want the freedom to be spontaneous. This is one of those areas where I always feel like I should be a judger, but I kind of probably am more a perceiver. I just tend to like a lot of flexibility, which is not for everybody. All right, this seems a good stopping spot. Once you're finished, usually you look, there's like 4 things. So for example, for me, I would be intuitive. What's the N stand for? I forget now. I'm definitely a feeler and I'm a perceiver. Oh, the N is for intuitive versus sensing. And what is the first one? I'm forgetting that. Oh, extrovert versus introverts. So I am an introvert, okay? The reason this is important is there's actually some resources that suggest who does best in what type of jobs. So somebody who's INFP is probably not going to be great as an actor because they're introverted. They don't really want to be on stage. Somebody who was a perceiver probably isn't going to make a very good judge or even maybe an umpire because they like to keep things open. They don't want to call the shots. So this can be kind of useful when you're thinking about careers later on. Okay. Please try and get those assignments done. Those the last 2 are really simple ones. You could usually just do those in the next 20 to 30 minutes and have them out of the way. All right. Thank you so much for showing up here today. And we will meet back tomorrow and try and get some more things done. Thank you so much, everybody.